Good day. I would like to talk with you today about a report. A report made by a member of the House of Lords, Lady or Baroness Casey, whatever you call her. And the report was on failings within the Metropolitan Police force in London. Now, I think at the age of, as I am aged somewhere in about 82, I've been around the house and the barn a fair few times. If you are looking at a police force, the only question you have to ask and have answered is whether they are doing their jobs correctly. Whether they have solved murders, prevented terror attacks, arrested burglars, arrested idiots on scooters who think they're above the law, and things like that. The multifarious duties of the Metropolitan Police Force are mind-boggling, and that is what Lady Casey should have looked at. But instead, she focuses on misogyny or dislike of the opposite sex, racism, which is an ephemeral term which can cover everything or nothing, and homophobia, which is about whether someone dislikes a pervert or not. Now, quite frankly, Lady Casey, I think, has lost the plot a little bit. When she says institutional misogyny, racism and homophobia, have these people who made these complaints to Lady Casey never heard of the simple truth of standing up and facing your problem in the face, staring them in the face? If you think you've been insulted, if you think you've been oppressed or bullied or whatever, any right-thinking man, or indeed woman, should stand up and say, that's enough. But instead, Lady Casey has concentrated on the accusations of many anonymous, because you don't hear many names in this lot, many anonymous accusations of the aforementioned misogyny, racist behaviour and homophobia, which to my mind is fair enough. But there again, not everybody is as hard thinking and right thinking as myself. But again, the question should have been, does the Metropolitan Police Force do its job properly? The attitude of the inquiry was, I think, to dismiss out of hand because of the failings of their own force, within their own force, to identify a man who was guilty of rapes and violent attacks on women, culminating in the rape and murder of a young woman, despite the very obvious happenings in the immediate past, where he could have been identified and arrested more times than I've had our breakfasts. But it's and again, after this bloke Cousins, I think his name was arrested and charged and put in a slammer. Another policeman was accused, and I think he's found guilty of 9 rapes. Now, I mean, there is always someone who knows. There is always someone who's picked up on behaviour, on words or statements. There is always someone who knows what's going on. And they're the ones who should be pilloried for not coming forward in the first place. I think I have written before. I don't know whether I've spoken before. I've certainly written before. A long time ago, I was working on a project on the South African gold mine, and all gold mines dig the rock deep underground. So you imagine you've got your overalls on, you've got your hard hat and your battery operated light, and you cram yourselves into a cage and you drop down 6,000 feet to the first level, the transfer level, and then you go around the corner and down an alley, and then you arrive at the second cage level, and you go down to maybe 9,000 or 10,000 feet. You're in a cage for a long time. Now, one of my mates was a little Welsh lad called Roger. He was a canny bloke, but as I say, he was little. He was, I'm medium height. I'm about 5'9", but he was somewhere around about 5'4". And because he was little and small, he was picked upon, certainly by this Afrikaans ex-wrestler, come what's called a day's pay miner. Now, to become a day's pay miner, you don't have to, all you have to learn is how to set and ignite explosives. That's all you do. Because the hard work is done by the black labour force, the black miners. Well, of course, when I was on the mines, I mean, it's all very, very different now, I suppose. But what he used to do was come up behind someone, usually smaller than himself, but obviously far, because he was a fat bloke, but he was immensely strong. He used to come up behind someone and squeeze them by getting his hands around the chest and squeezing like that. And he started to squeeze from behind my mate Roger's, and Roger was in pain. He really was. So I pulled this bloke's shoulder back, and I said to him, "Why don't you pick on someone your own size, weight, and mental capacity?" Now, this bloke was obviously smart enough to realise that this was a threat to his authority, and he turned on me. And I said to him, "You can maybe punch me, you can maybe squeeze me, you can maybe thump me in the face. But if you do that, I will break you in civil court, I will break you in criminal court, and I will make damn certain that you never work down a mine again." By the time his mates walked him away, he was literally gibbering and crying with rage at what I had done to him, which was to call him out. Because in my book, all bullies are cowards, and they won't stand up to anyone who stands against them. So in this modern police force, where unfortunately they have changed the physical and certainly the physical attributes, from being a tall man fit to intercept and stop equally fit and large aggressive people. They've changed these standards and of course they've allowed women to enter the force. And the average woman is, by their very nature, small and fragile. There are very few 6 foot tall females. And in the canteen culture, which is promoted certainly in many police forces, there's a fair amount of sexual teasing going on, if nothing else. And all these people have to do is stand up against them, call them out, and report them to their superiors, and demand an immediate restitution and retribution, whether it be they fined or demoted or suspended or indeed fired. But they won't do that. And that is where the failure comes in Lady Casey's conclusions about systemic and fundamental misogyny and racism and dislike of perverts. I fail to realise what she is trying to do by listing about 300 odd pages of stupidity, and then attempting to bring down possibly the most professional police force in this country. But there again, I'm different. I believe in saying exactly what I think all the time, and to hell with the consequences. I think getting this Lady Casey to even start doing something like this without laying strict guidelines about whether the police force was failing to do its job, and ignore these silly things which Lady Casey has made so important. I thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again.